Welcome to DS Trucks. In today's video, we are going to be doing a cold pour test on our diesel oils. We have our AMSOIL 0W40, we have our 5W40 PAO oil, and we have our 5W40 Shell Rotella T6. But we also have 0W40 Shell Rotella T6 right here. So this kind of works out real good because tonight we're gonna get down to 4 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty cold. So what I'm gonna do is actually just set these oil containers outside right now and just let them stay outside till tomorrow. And we'll have to get up real early at like 5 a.m. to pour these out and kind of see how they pour out. Now, it's not going to be super scientific like Project Farms, but it will at least show us sort of how which one kind of pours out better. So anyway, let's go ahead and stage these oils outside. See you guys outside. So these are just gonna sit out here in the freezing cold. Right now it's like 20 degrees outside, but we're gonna let these sit here until 6 a.m. in the morning, and then we will go ahead and kind of pour these out and see how they pour. So anyway, see you guys at 6 a.m. All right, guys, so here we are. It is 6:30 a.m. and it is 8 degrees outside. So this is pretty much, I mean, as cold as it usually gets here in my area, but we are going to see how these pour out. Now, I know this is not super scientific. They have different size openings. I think this FR3 Blue Diamond has a smaller size opening when the others have the same, but I'm curious to see what we have here. Like, so just a quick recap. We've got our 0W40 Shell Rotella T6. We've got our 5W40 Shell Rotella T6. We've got our 5W40 Hot Shot Secret diesel oil, and we've got our 0W40 AMSOIL diesel oil. These are all going to be diesel oils, and we're going to see how they pour in relation to each other in 8 degrees. All right, guys, so here we are. First one is our Shell Rotella T6 0W40. Open this up and just see how it kind of flows out of the can, being left at 8 degrees overnight. Let's see here. Looks good. That is our 0W40 Shell Rotella. It pours pretty good. It holds a strong film too. If you raise up the can, it just holds a strong film. So pretty good. So that's the 0W40 from Shell Rotella. Let's see how the 5W40, how this does. I wonder if it's the same. So this is a brand new jug of oil. Let's see what happens here. It looks the same. It's a little bit thicker. Look how thick that is, though. That's noticeably thicker. Holds a better film a little bit, seems like. Yeah, definitely cold. I'm getting a little cold out here. So let's go back again to the 040. So that was the 540. Let's look at the 040 one more time. Okay, I'm going to say those look exactly the same. You know, 040, 540, Shell Rotella, to me, they look exactly the same. So since we're on the topic of 040s, let's jump right to our AMSOIL 0W40 and see how this kind of looks once it comes out. It's got a child-proof cap on it or something. AMSOIL 0W40. Let's see here. Flows a little bit better, just a little bit better than Rotella. Definitely flows a little bit better. I mean, it's very marginal, but noticeably better. All right, and last but not least, the Hot Shot Secrets. Now, when I was looking at this, when I would shake up the can, I remember after like half a day sitting out here, I was thinking this stuff is literally moving like it did when it was warm. But now that it's been out here at 8 degrees, it has thickened a little compared to being warm. So here we go. How does a 5W40 thick, pretty thick. Well, it's so this thing has this metal in it. Let's pull that out. Let's take that out of there. Let's see how it does. Very similar, all very similar to each other. I would say the AMSOIL was just a tad bit easier to flow, but pretty similar. Now I don't have access to these like really cold freezers that can get down to -40, -50 to really see, but it almost seems like any one of these would be good enough for the real world scenario, especially in this area, like 8 degrees, 0 degrees, you know, Fahrenheit. It could hit 0 here, in most of the lower 48, or at least the northern part of the lower 48 can see temperatures, you know, in the zeros and the negatives, but the odds of you getting down to the -50 that some of this stuff is rated for, it's pretty slim, pretty rare that you'd ever get a -50. But nonetheless, the 0W40 does help a little bit. It's not so thin that it's water. It's similar to the 540. I don't think it's that much different. So I really wouldn't have any fear running a 0W40 over a 540. It seems to be pretty much a similar product. Now I did run the AMSOIL 0W40 and it did great, and toward the end of its oil life it just seemed like it got better and better. Like that stuff, that AMSOIL, I think how they say their stuff can run extended drain intervals, I wouldn't doubt it one bit. Like if I was out of warranty, I would 100% be running this for at least 2 oil cycles instead of 1, and then it would start to pay for itself. And this stuff though, it could go longer than 2, and it would pay for itself. Now the FR3, same thing. Honestly, I would say this stuff kind of ran even a little bit better than the AMSOIL, but then again, the AMSOIL ran so good even toward the end. Like this stuff was at the end of its oil cycle according to the oil life monitor, and it was just ready for more. It was just in its groove. So these two oils, being they're more the high-end oils, the Hot Shot Seekers and the AMSOIL, they are great. I mean, they do what they say. In my opinion, they can go those extended intervals. The Shell Rotella, I'm not sure. I just got this stuff in the engine. I got the 040 in the engine right now. I think it's good. I think it's good oil. It runs good. It sounds good. The engine sounds great. Now the first time I ran it, it was a little bit noisy, but like after getting it all circulated and primed and driving it for a day, the startups have been very quiet. They've been very, very quiet. There's no clicking, there's nothing like that, and it's just good oil. But I'll say this, these two oils run the motor a tad bit smoother. The turbo seems to want to kind of wind up or kind of have a little bit more audible turbo whistle with these two oils, the real high-end oils. Most with the Hot Shot Secrets, then the AMSOIL was good too, and then the AMSOIL toward the end of its oil life cycle was like, oh yeah, this stuff it's good. It's almost like the AMSOIL had to break in a little bit just to get into its groove. And when you look at some of the testing, you could see like some of the parameters on the AMSOIL. When you look at some of the other channels that have long-term testing, they would see that its life would really stabilize. Its oil, its when they're testing it, its qualities would stabilize as the oil gets into the extended drain intervals. So this oil sample from AMSOIL is getting sent off. The one thing about doing extended drain intervals when my situation is being an emissions truck, I do get some fuel, not a whole bunch, but a little bit of fuel gets in my oil. So if I'm going to be doing extended drain intervals and getting tons of fuel in my oil, that's where I'm going to kind of die a slow death and can't do the really long extended drain intervals. Now, the ROTELLA T6, I don't think I'm going to be running it long term, and the reason is it's too hard to get. It's getting to be too expensive, and I can actually get this FR3 stuff for a little bit more, but close to the same price of the T6. And I'm not finding that it's better in any way than any of these real high-end oils. These high-end oils definitely seem to be better. I think it could end up being better as far as consumption. It might burn less, because I do burn like a quart of oil between oil changes. Maybe it burns less oil. It does. I will say the engine, as far as like maybe a little bit of valve train noise or something like that, maybe that's quieter now with this T6. But then again, it seems like this oil doesn't have as much performance as these higher end oils. Like, it seems like the engine rides a little more rough, a little more diesel like. With these oils, they quiet the diesel engine down to the point where it sounds like it's a gas engine. It's super smooth on these oils. Like, this oil, it's almost like when I was running the 10W30. When I run the 10W30, it gets that diesel sound to it. It still sounds good and everything, but it's a little bit more diesel like. Where this stuff makes the engine so smooth. Once it gets hot and everything and gets going, it's just a tad bit smoother. Like, no, I'm not saying the clicking, or sometimes that's maybe it's more so with the AMSOIL. There was a little bit of a click at the start, but that could have just literally been because that oil's fresh, super fresh. Like when this oil, even the T6, the first time this T6 was in the engine, the first trip home was like a little, the valve train was like a little bit noisy. And then maybe they needed to prime or something, but now it's absolutely quiet. It's absolutely quiet. Now, cold start. I did a cold start yesterday, truck not plugged in. And I had the 0W40 T6, and straight up, the 0W40 AMSOIL, in my opinion, is going to be a little bit better than the T6. And that's just my opinion. It's hard to really quantify, but that is where I'm at. But anyway, guys, that's it for today's video. All these did good. It would have probably been cool if I had some of that 15W40, but I just don't have that. That would have been cool to kind of see how that stuff does in this cold weather. But I'm gonna get out of this. My hands are starting to hurt. But this is DS Trucks. My name is Sean. See you. All right, guys, so I just finished editing this video, and looking back at the footage, the oils looked super similar, but with a small advantage going to the AMSOIL and the Hot Shot Secrets, in my opinion. Very marginal advantage. But I do notice that I made a little bit of a mistake and not showing another factory oil that I have, well, the factory oil that I have, and that is the Motorcraft 10W30. So this is what the dealer tells you to use. Oftentimes, a lot of dealers will tell you that you have to use the 10W30, and from my experience, there's nothing wrong with the 10W30. I used, I believe this is what comes from the factory, and we did oil analysis on this oil, and the oil was still pretty good. The oil still had life after oil life monitoring. It still had life in it and everything, but one of the arguments to use maybe a 5W40 or a 0W40 is the cold weather performance compared to the 10W30. So I am going to redo this with the 10W30. All the 5W40s and 0W40s seemed to be very similar. And to my surprise, the difference between 540 and 040, in my opinion, is marginal. There's still 40 weights. So the fear of using a 0W40, the fear of it being potentially too thin, I think the 40, the 040, it being too thin is a non-issue in my opinion. But I'm very curious to how this would do in the cold, being a 1030, being something that's not specifically rated for the cold, where all the 540s and 040s, whether it's the T6, whether it's the AMSOIL, whether it's the FR3, they all performed well. I wonder how this oil does. Is it noticeably thicker? So we got another 8-degree day coming, and we will go ahead and redo this while including this 10W30 oil, Motorcraft 10W30. But anyway, guys, that's it for DS Trucks again. See you in the next video. Over and out.